Hi everybody, my name's Henry, and today we're going to be going over how to wire a head unit in this series.
So in order to connect these wires, there's a couple of ways that you can do it, and I'm just going to go over a couple few. So these have already been pre-cut for us, so I can pull off this sleeve to get the wire exposed. Same with on our harness. So there's a few ways you can do this. The first way you could do is you could take off both pieces and electrical tape them together. I wouldn't recommend this. It's messy, it doesn't look good, and I just don't like it. Another way you can do, which wouldn't be good in this situation, is wire nuts, which is basically just a little tiny screw where you can screw it onto two wires. A third way you can do it is called heat shrink. Heat shrink, basically you apply heat and it surrounds the wires. There is some on here, but it's really hard to show. Another way you can do it is also connectors. You can get a Wago connector or a butt connector and connect them like that. The way we're probably going to do it is soldering them together, which you melt metal onto both wires to physically bond them, and then we're going to heat shrink over it.
So right now what I'm doing is I'm sorting the wires according to the wiring diagram over here, and I'm connecting them together. So these are going to be all of our power wires for the illumination, the 12 volts, your antenna that would go on your car, your ground cable, and your accessory. So when you turn on the accessory on your key, it'll turn on the radio. These three wires are not needed right now. Therefore, if your steering wheel has buttons to go volume up or volume down or anything like that, and then the reverse for a reverse camera. The rest of these wires are going to be for our speakers for the front right, front left, back right. So now we're going to connect these together, and the way that we're doing this is we're going to be using rosin core solder. This is lead based, so you want to make sure you don't touch your face after you've been handling it. And right over here we have our soldering iron, which I'm going to get that powered on now. Basically all we're doing now is we're going to be connecting these wires together. They are color coded, and we're going to be melting this liquid onto them, and then we are going to put heat shrink over top to secure them in place. So in order to put these together, what I always do is I twist the wires together just so you don't have any loose wires anywhere. And you're going to do that for both parts of your connector, the one coming out of the radio and the one that's going into your actual connector. So just now I trimmed up the wire a little bit, so it's kind of hard to see, but they match the same length pretty much for the exposed copper wire. So the next thing we're going to do is you want to make sure you don't forget to put your heat shrink on the glove. And I'm going to grab some scissors real quick to cut this because this is way too long. Okay, so you have your heat shrink. You want to make sure you actually have the right size. So first of all, make sure you can actually fit it over the wire. Just make sure it fits, which it does for both sides on this one. So this is the right size. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to trim it down. So it's really hard to see, but if you look, you only need about that much to cover it. You just want a little overlap on both sides. So I'm going to trim that here. That's just about all you need. So before you do anything, you want to slide this onto your wire, because if you don't, you're going to have to cut your wire and restrip it because you can't fit it on once it's already soldered together. Our solder is ready now, so we're going to add a little bit of flux, which helps the metal flow. And I'm just going to put a little on the copper itself. This is a bit of a hard angle to do, especially with this iron. So first things first, it is going to smoke a lot. It does that. So whenever it gets dirty, you dip it in here and it cleans off the tip of it so it's nice and shiny like that. That makes sure the tip is tinned. If you don't do that before you store it, it can get corroded and you'll need a new tip. So let's get started. So I'm deciding to twist mine together just slightly so it's easier to keep a hold on them. And you're just going to put your metal on there, your solder. Sometimes it can be a bit tough to get it to stick like there, it shifted. Ideally, you'd have a tool to help with that, but I don't. So I'm just going to deal with it. So that's the first one done. It's a little rough, but you can see it right there. It's stuck together. And the next thing you're going to want to do is slide your heat shrink over top and try not to get it to bulge too much like I did. Otherwise, it's not going to want to go over too well. Okay, once you have that slid over, you're going to want to grab a heat gun. I have this one right here, which is really nice. You just put it in there and it'll shrink the wire, the heat shrink around it. And that right there is one done. You can see it's all nice and secure. It's not coming apart. So I'm going to do that with the rest of them now. All right, and that's one connector done. See, it's harnessed in. All the wires are soldered and heat shrunk. So that should be it for this one. And that is the second connector done. See, it's all put together. All of our wires are all there. So the next thing we're going to have to do is put this in, and then we're going to have to wire up the sub.